Welcome, Carol. We have with us today Carol Andrade. You, I think, when I was going through your profile, you've had the most fascinating, interesting, long career in journalism. And you tell me now that you're a girl from Patna. So 40 years ago, this girl from Patna arrives in then Bombay, now Mumbai. First of all, what brought you here?
I came here to join the Times of India. It's as simple as that. Once I stopped wanting to be a doctor, I got admission in AFMC, but there were circumstances that militated against my going there. Then my mother decided that I was going to be a journalist. At that time, mothers decided things, you know. So I said, okay, if I have to be a journalist, I have to join the best newspaper in the country, which is the Times of India at that time. And so I came to Bombay.
Why did she choose journalism?
Because she says I was very good at writing. So, and it was true.
You're a lucky girl to have a mother like that.
She was very clear-minded, very clear-minded. In fact, she fitted us into each of our professions and we sort of stuck to it.
And what was Times of India like then? There was no paid news, there was no paid content. It was straight journalism.
It was straight journalism. It was also regarded as the best newspaper in the country. And I liked its historical, traditional image. There was just one snag. There were no women in journalism at that time. There were no women in reporting. And I wanted to be a reporter.
What year was that?
This was when I came to Bombay, it was 1972. They had a very good training scheme through which you could get into the Times of India. But the women who had got in were not in reporting. Started doing a course in journalism. I did a postgraduate course at KC College. Everything was planned, you know, strategized as if I was a general. And I knew that they had Times of India faculty, so you get to know them. And I did very well. And I went for the first training scheme, you know, program, and I wasn't selected. And I waited a year and a half, and then for the second one I was selected. And then they told us how we were the cream of the crop, and I said, crap. I know the kind of people you took, and they were certainly not as good as I was last time.
Did you actually say it?
Yes, it was Srinivas Lakshman who came and told me, you know, we are the cream of the crop. And I said, you're not. And you were taken last time, and I wasn't. So let's cut that bit of crap at least. So it was great. I wanted to be a reporter.
Any flack for that? I mean, that's how outspoken you were then?
But no, it was great, Madhu. Journalism was a great profession. I went in there knowing I was going to be as poor as a church mouse. What were we paid then? We were paid nothing. But it was the excitement, it was the attitude of people towards journalists. And it was the fact that I was doing something that nobody else was doing.
Let me put my finger on it right there. You are saying that what it was and what it's become. First, what do you think started the deterioration in journalism in India? What is the key point you think that made it what it is today?
Oddly enough, liberalism. There was this explosion of media. Technology was there to help take the heat off the effort that you needed to put into journalism. There was media everywhere. You needed people. I think there was this huge vacuum of talented people, qualified people, and youngsters also began to realize that it was fairly easy to get into media. And I think actually standards started falling there. Even now, and you had insufficient training, which is the truth even now. How many people are really trained for a career in television journalism in India? Everybody is trained for print, and then you're sort of thrown into the deep end and you're told to do your worst or your best.
Do you think Times of India was responsible for the paid content revolution in media journalism?
Absolutely. And who else? They did it so smartly, but it was their, I was going to say fault. It was their innovation, it was their strategy, it was their design. It worked for them, but has it worked for media? Has it worked for journalism? Has it worked for the press? No, it hasn't.
And why do you think there was no protest, say in other news organizations in Mumbai when it started?
There were protests. I think there were protests. But sadly enough, the protest should have come from within the organization itself, and that was not going to happen because by then journalists themselves had become very comfortable. You know, salaries had gone up, we were beginning to experience the good life, It was no jhola and chappals any longer for us. You know, it was a phone, a phone your source existence. It was, people had begun to get cars. People were beginning to sort of feel their oats.
So you mean that
and I think that weakened us, a lot of it. It actually weakened us. It weakened our moral fiber, if I can put it like that. If I can still say moral fiber and journalists.
But does poverty mean that you have moral fiber, and then if you have money, you lose it?
I think that the expansion that took place brought about very sudden changes. And when you have been deprived for so long, and then suddenly you're comfortable, you're going to be very careful before you rock the boat. And then you come up with rationalizations, then you come up with generalizations, then you're explaining to everybody, and at some point you're convinced yourself that what you're doing is right.
So we were co-opted basically.
Yes.
And Sameer Jain said everyone's complaining now, but they're all going to follow me.
And he was right.
And they did.
He was right.
And that is the saddest part.
It's part, when you talk about corruption in journalism, it's reflective of corruption in society. When you think about it, where do we go with our complaints in the ultimate analysis? Who is not touched? Who are the people who are actually going to put their hands on your heads and say, okay, leave it here, this is really where the buck stops? Who show me a person like that. Show me a class of people to whom you can look for protection. It doesn't exist, does it, in this country anymore? We are mirrors of society. Why should we be different from everybody else?
Have you done investigative stories in Afternoon Dispatch which sort of exposes local misgovernance or corruption or the infrastructure falling apart in Mumbai because of people not doing their job?
Madhu, I think that the term investigative for all these big things really doesn't exist. All the stories that you are now seeing in print, even the stories in the Times of India, they have been handed to various journalists on a platter. What is there to investigate now with RTI? Everything is out in the open. I think the only thing you need to investigate is how many RTI activists you can add to your panel every month.
And get information
Thank God
from them.
for RTI. Getting information in India has always been a huge problem.
So you have RTI activists working with you in Afternoon Dispatch?
We have an RTI page. How many newspapers in Bombay can say that? How many tabloids can say that? We're the only ones who have an RTI page every week.
So you get the material from them on what they're chasing?
Yes. We follow it up.
So that's investigative.
We are not doing it. You know what? I'm being honest. It's not our investigative story. It's these guys who are out there doing the work. It's not the Times of India which has uncovered irrigation. It's Anjali Damania and right now Vijay Pandhare and the people in Janmanch. It's these people who have done the work, the hard work, and paid the price. Anjali has had 59 acres of her land in Karjat attached. She knew she was getting into it, but she still went ahead and did it. And who is she? She's a pathologist. A year and a half ago, her only concern was where they were going to have their next foreign holiday. She just landed in all this by accident, which is why I say, I don't need to investigate.
But you do, Carol, because you could find something which other people don't.
To ensure what our own investigations bring us up against sources. She is my source. Why should I waste that time? It's very expensive and it takes a long time, and also deadlines militate against it, Madhu. Nobody wants to wait even 10 days for the story. Every newspaper has this problem of being, they all say, even Times I think at some point will say it's short-staffed. Why do we keep going back to the Times? I don't know. But Hindustan Times will say that it's short-staffed. DNA will say the same thing. Here we are genuinely short-staffed, and we can't afford to keep somebody on a story for 1 week or 10 days and at the end of it, have the luxury of saying, okay, it hasn't worked out. So,
do you think that Delhi, where the political power sits, and Mumbai,
loaded question, huh?
Puts you kind of out of touch with the kind of scene that happens in Delhi, where there is a nexus of politicians, journalists, editors, corporates? Does that put you, being in Mumbai, doesn't it sort of remove you from the reality muck that exists?
I hope so, Madhu. I hope so. I know that the muck exists. I know the reality. We have enough of it here we get our feet dirty, but that doesn't mean you have to leap into a septic tank in order to know how badly it stinks. So I really wouldn't ever want to be in Delhi. For one thing, it's so difficult to be a woman and be safe in Delhi, even at my age, and this is a ripe old age where I should really be secure, I should be confident, I should be able to go anywhere in Delhi. For another, I think Bombay, because it is so involved with money making, and I see money making as the core of an improvement in your circumstances, that I like Bombay. I think it's more honest, it's cleaner, and I've never been a big fan of politics. I have enjoyed, yeah, it's honest. Dadagiri, Dada refers to the name by which he is.
Yeah, but why was he resigning? I mean, big scandal has broken out in Maharashtra.
I'm talking about the practice of journalism. I'm not about everybody being more honest. I think that Maharashtra is in a very bad position right now. I am ashamed of the state. I'm ashamed of it because we seem to have breached the parameters everywhere when it comes to corruption, when it comes to crime, when it comes to crime against women and children, infanticide and feticide records are so low. Right now we are having a crisis of confidence even in our own law and order. There is not a single IPS officer I respect. It wasn't like that. I'm so glad my career is coming to an end. I'm so glad that now I can get into teaching.
But what can Afternoon Dispatch do to combat all that you've spoken about? I mean, you've got enormous...
Combat all?
Well, at least, yes, all. You have the power of having a newspaper which does have the ability to address these issues. You're not interested in the sensational sex violence stuff, which is normally...
We are interested. Who says we are not interested?
Well, there's not much of it in your paper comparatively to other...
What we try, what we try to do, I think the strength of the Afternoon lies in the fact that we try to be analytical and interpretative besides being reporters. So that is the only thing. What can you do? You can only arm your readers, right?
But Carol, you can go down fighting. I mean, you're saying...
Why should we go down, Madhu? We are not going down anywhere.
Right, go up fighting. Because you're
just going to stay on the same level fighting and hope that more people join in. We have a loyal readership, and I think they trust us. They trust us to tell the truth.
Well,
you yourself
huge.
know.
That's
you
huge.
yourself know that there is no such thing as absolute truth. As a journalist, you know that. There is journalistic truth. So the truth I am telling you today is the truth as I see it. Tomorrow this truth might change, but I am also going to tell you that if it changes and I honestly see a new truth in it, I'm going to tell you, and I'm also going to tell you why I'm changing it.
That's wonderful, Carol. Thank you very, very much.
Oh, thank you.